Okay, so here are the rails, and here is our show.
Completely off. Completely gone today. What in the world? Derailed.
Yay, you're here. Welcome to the CK and GK podcast. Let's get going. Hi, everyone. This episode was recorded in September of 2021. It's part 3 of our school choice series, so it could be a little old sounding. I mean, even our name was outdated, so we got that going for us. But the information, as always, is gold, and the funnies are definitely there. Take a listen. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Top Knot Talk. It's real talk from ladies who have definitely thrown our hair up in a top knot this morning to just get this done.
Right. So today is our third and final episode in our series on school choice. Today we are going to investigate the world of private schools. But before that, let me introduce my co-host. This is Caitlin. She's hard on the outside, but soft and chewy on the inside.
What? Oh my goodness. And I have Rhoda's bestie here and the voice of reason on the 6 o'clock news at WJM-TV in Minneapolis. It's Mary Richards, everyone, from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I mean, she's the only sane one on the show, right? Am I right?
Right.
And Rhoda loves her, so it works out. Just kidding. I have Jenny. It's Jenny, my dear friend Jenny. Jenny, I would like you to please share with everyone what you did yesterday, because I laughed and I need you to tell it.
We have a couple of family rules in our family. One of them, the number one family rule, is don't waste meat. And the number 2
Stop. That was not part of the conversation we just had. Don't waste meat. Oh my God.
Number one family rule.
Okay, hold on. Real quick sidebar on that one. My sister one day decided, I have 3 sisters, one day decided she was going to be a vegetarian. And my other sister, who was older than her, was like, what? Morans eat meat. And it was the funniest, like, what are you talking about? Anyway, go ahead. Sidebar over. Don't waste meat. Got it. Rule number 1.
First rule, don't waste meat. Second rule, we finish what we start in this family.
Okay. That's the rule I need to apply to my own ADHD tendency life. Got it.
So in the spirit of don't waste meat and we finish what we start, my husband entered a bagel dog eating contest. What is a bagel dog? It is a sausage wrapped in bagel dough.
It sounds delicious. Let's be clear.
And
also horrifying.
Right. He tweeted at Joey Chestnut, the Nathan's hot dog eating champion, and Joey tweeted back. He said, "Do you have any advice for me? I'm entering my first competitive eating in 35 years old." Joey says, "Forget everything that you've done in eating in the last 35 years. Full is a feeling and you can ignore it."
Oh my God. Oh, Joey Chestnut, congratulations on your many victories in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. But also congratulations to your husband for actually entering this contest and like participating. Because no, there's no way. There's no way.
So
what's the girl's name? The Black Widow or something? Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, he came in third place.
Nice. Very nice.
The first and second place winners tied. And then because this was hosted at a brewery, had a chugging contest to see who would win the first place trophy. John was disappointed that he didn't win, but we were all proud of him for not throwing up.
There you go. See, because that's what would have happened.
Waste meat.
Right. Yeah, that's the real reason. Don't waste the meat you just shoveled down. Oh my god. Ew. But congratulations. Well done. You earned that.
Well, and I feel like it's a great entry for Two Truths and a Lie.
Right?
I once came in
Totally.
third in a bagel dog
In a-
eating contest.
It's very specific.
Right?
It's like, like sometimes people add too many details to their lies. Like,
right.
yeah, it could go either way. That's a tricky one. I like it. You're right. Perfect entry for that. Oh my goodness. Speaking of sports, does bagel eating contest count as sports? I don't know that it does, but we're gonna go ahead and I think you get the meat sweats when you finish. So
oh my gosh, no,
yeah.
It was gross because it was also outside, and this is Texas. It was 100 degrees yesterday.
It was 100 degrees outside. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oy.
So we are recording today on a Sunday morning, which is not our usual MO.
Mm-mm.
And I am undisturbed because upstairs, my husband and 2 children are watching an F1 race.
Nice.
Yeah, John just got into F1 this last season by watching a show on Netflix all about it.
Okay, wait, F1, Formula One. So like
Formula One
European racing circuit.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So apparently there's this whole Netflix TV show that follows the actual racers and the actual teams and kind of tells the behind the scenes story.
Okay.
And so he got very hooked on that, and now he is watching all the races.
Is it kind of like the HBO series that does like preseason football games?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
I always get really into that team for the year. What is that show? I'm going to go crazy. Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Is it Grid something Grid?
I don't know. No, I'll figure it out. It'll come to me.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I thought I would talk a little bit about what I have learned about F1 racing.
Okay.
The races are all outside because, it's cars, so you can't do it inside, which means sometimes it's raining, and that can either end a race or change a race. When they say pit stop, these pit stops are somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 10 seconds. That's my favorite part of watching the race. It's just watching them like change tires in 10 seconds.
That's amazing.
It's so cool. There are
even
20
imagine
teams. That. Right.
How many?
No, it's 20.
Okay.
But it's really 10 teams that are allowed to have 2 cars each.
Okay.
Okay. So the races have 20 cars, but it's really just 10 teams. So there's prizes not only for the first, second, and third place cars, but there's also prizes for the teams and for the individual drivers. So you want to win the race, but you also want to win the Driver's Cup or whatever the team challenge is called. And I don't remember because I am not that into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you only get the facts here, and it's well researched. We're really thorough. We're really good, and we're clearly excited by every topic we bring you.
Yeah, Formula One. The cars cost like $1 bajillion each.
Yes. Okay, and they're just riveted by it upstairs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing that's great about F1 racing. Number one, because it's happening in Europe, it comes on early in the morning on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 8 a.m.
Yeah, that's how we are with
the
soccer.
races are short.
Mm.
They're like less than 200 miles. So they are finishing in about an hour, hour and a half.
Oh, that's if your kid can watch that. I mean, we just have Ninjago going on at our front, but if Sam would watch race cars, that'd be pretty awesome. Yeah. He might. We'll have to check it out. That is one thing I like about anything like any European sports. Like we watch a lot of English Premier League in our house. Go Spurs. And we have to like kind of plan around those because they used to come on super early. And when we lived in Colorado, it would be on at like 6 or 7 in the morning for us.
Is that soccer?
Yes, it is soccer.
Okay.
We will talk about English Premier League at some point. It will happen. I'm a fan. We have a lot to talk about with that, but we'll come to that later.
But notice, listeners, I told you I'm not that into F1, so I don't know that much about it. She says English Premier League, and I'm like, I think it's soccer? Question mark.
Well, okay. So just real quick,
That
the
like
news
croquet that
no.
she's watching.
Cricket. No, it's so the news that came out of that most recently is Cristiano Ronaldo, who's like one of the foremost footballers in the world, just re-signed with Manchester United, who is one of the biggest soccer teams in the world, and they play in English Premier League soccer. And there's more about Cristiano Ronaldo that we can get to another time, but that's a big deal that he's going back to England to play with Manchester United. So kind of a big deal. That's another sports tidbit for everyone. But that's where like English Premier League fame sort of comes into play as with those teams. Yeah. So my sports news of the week is Baylor is a college in the middle of Texas, not far from here in Waco, Texas. And Baylor's girls basketball team is very good. Brittany Griner made Baylor's team famous a few years ago, but the big news from college level women's basketball is that Baylor University's women's basketball team is no longer going to be known as the Lady Bears. They've been called the Lady Bears for forever. They're just going to be called the Bears now. They just get to be the Baylor Bears, just like every other women's team and every other team that Baylor has. They're just the Bears. That's really cool. The entire university only has, they only have the Bears for all their other teams. Why make the Baylor women's basketball team be the Lady Bears? But now they're just Bears. I like it.
Duh, Bears.
Wrong state and sport and league. Everything about it doesn't match, but I still really liked it. Please continue.
All right.
Anytime we can throw in an SNL reference, I'm going to be happy about it.
Oh yeah, hello. I teach 6th grade. The history class is covering Neanderthals.
Nice.
And they were talking about misconceptions that Neanderthals are, they were not smart. And I said, oh, you ought to show your kids the SNL Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. And the history teacher, God love him, he's a little bit younger than I am.
He doesn't get it.
And he was like, what? And I said, you're going to have to go back in time. This is like 1994.
Yeah.
But Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, your kids will love it. It's very funny.
It's very funny. And you can find that to be appropriate, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is that where like
no.
Yeah, it's not like it's the ladies' man or anything. So
oh no. There's one where he's suing the city on behalf of someone who slipped in front of the library. He's like, I'm just a unfrozen caveman. But I know that when someone slips in front of the library, they are entitled to at least $300,000 for pain and suffering.
That's funny. I like it. Yeah, no, you should totally do that. I used to teach the Neanderthals too, as I did as like beginning of civilization sort of stuff. So I taught about that. But that's really cool. I like it. Let's continue.
Yes, moving on. Okay, so here's the part of the show where we pull back the curtain on parenting and talk about what happened that was real this week. What made me want to put my hair up and deal.
Or not deal, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Just shake your head and be like, what is happening in my life?
I am helping my almost 3-year-old wash his hands in the bathroom. Oh, and he says, I'm going to dry my hands. I said, oh, what towel are you going to use? He says, this gray one. It was white. I need new towels.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. So I bought a bunch of towels too, but there's one towel that was given to me that has an embroidered Spider-Man on it. And it's really cool. And my son loves it. Someone gave it to me a long time ago and I kept it really nice. And I was like, someday somebody's going to want this towel. I don't know who, but we're going to make it work. And then I give it to my son and it is gray. It is a white towel with a Spider-Man embroidered on the edge. And it has pink splotches and it's gray and I've bleached it. I'm going to have to just bleach it and then put it out in the sun. Like, I don't know what else I can do, but it is done. Needing new towels is the worst when you're like, oh man, when you see why you need new towels, it's gross.
Yeah. When a 3-year-old says this towel is gray,
he's like, because he's not lying. Yeah, no, he's not lying. He's not lying. So still gonna use them. Don't care. They just will go in the master bath and not in the guest bathroom. I've never been like the biggest Halloween person. I love fall.
Really?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I mean, I liked acting in high school, but putting on a costume and like doing costumey things, like it just makes I feel a little cringy. It's just not totally my thing. I know it's your form of self-care. I will do it because I think it's fun.
That is spot on.
I know it is.
You are so right. I love a good dress up day.
I know you do. So I wouldn't be surprised if you absolutely adore Halloween to that end.
I do.
Yeah. See,
I do. But I am not like all into the dark part of Halloween. I know there's a lot of people who love that.
No.
I just love the dress up.
I don't do like scary movies and stuff, oddly enough, because I really love true crime. But I think that a scary movie is very different from true crime, and I don't really get into it. The only scary movie that I can do is Scream because it's funny. At the end, when he's talking about how his mom's going to be mad at him for murdering, 8 people or whatever it is. Yeah, that's funny to me. But I do like fall and all things that are related to Halloween, and I will get into it like in a roundabout kind of way. Like Jim Halpert putting 3-hole punch on himself and calling himself 3-hole punch version of Jim for Halloween in The Office is like right up my alley. I love that. So I was on some sort of BuzzFeed list or something, and I came across a Sanderson Farms Home of the Black Flame Candle t-shirt on Amazon, and I must have this shirt. I am telling you, Hocus Pocus is between Hocus Pocus and Practical Magic. I could watch those all Halloween long and like just be the happiest stinking person on the planet. I love it, and I am going to find this Black Flame Candle t-shirt and I'm going to buy it. I am not ashamed to say that I'm obsessed with this one shirt. So it will be my Halloween shirt. I get a Halloween shirt for Sam every year, and I'm getting this one for myself for this year, and I will wear it for years to come. It makes me so happy.
Have you been able to find it?
Yeah, I found it, and I just need to make sure that the one that I want isn't sold out. It keeps saying it's sold out or like will be restocked or whatever. So I've got it like in my Amazon cart, and I'm just waiting for when it's available again, and I will like hit like add to cart or buy now or whatever it is immediately so I can have it, because I really want it. It's so cool.
That's like my Martha and Snoop t-shirt. Yeah. My mom bought it for me, and then we never saw it on Amazon again.
I'm afraid I'm sure. Here's the thing. I'm sure I could find
There's probably a knockoff
like
on Etsy.
On Etsy. Yeah. And this person may even be an Etsy seller who's also selling on, you know what I mean? So I'm sure I can find it. But the price was also like, chef's kiss amazing. So like, yeah, I as someone who is between jobs at the moment, I was like, do I buy I'm going to buy the shirt. So it's going to be my thing at Halloween. So you're probably going to see it at some point, but that's I'm not ashamed, as I'm obsessed with this t-shirt because Hocus Pocus is amazing. There's other ones too. I don't know.
I'm really glad you explained it, because I thought this was going to be about chicken. I was like, Sanderson Farms, don't they make chicken?
I think it's oh my God, I think they do. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you're right. But I think, or maybe it's like Sanderson. Either way, I got to find it. I'm pretty sure it said Sanderson Farms, but now I could just be thinking of a commercial in my head. But I know that it says, the one that I want says Home of the Black Flame Candle at the bottom.
Right.
It is very cool. And it doesn't have their faces on it, because I don't care about that. To me, the whole amazing part of the shirt is, if you read Black Flame Candle,
it's
you know
subtle.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Right. I don't need their heads. And also, did you know that they're rebooting the movie?
Okay, so let me tell you this about this movie.
I love it.
When I was in 4th grade, we rewrote it to make it a school play.
Ooh, cool.
And I was cast as Maxine.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say you were cast as one of the 3, and I would have adored that so much.
I was so excited about this play. And then my dad got orders and we had to move.
Oh no. Well, we can reenact.
I never got to play.
It's so sad. It's such a good movie, and it would have been a great play, and you would have been so
a
good.
Great 4th grade play.
Yes, it would have. Oh, it's so good. Also, can we talk about how crap those parents are, by the way?
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on. Oh, anyway. I love that movie so much, and I'm gonna get that shirt. You're gonna see it. It's gonna be on.
No, I have the Genovia Princess Training Academy shirt.
Yes.
And it just has a little pear on it. And it's like if you see it and you look at
you'll
it, you're
know.
like,
I know.
It's a
Yeah,
little
you're like, I
subtle.
got you. Yeah, I got you. That's awesome. Speaking of chicken, we have more chicken news for you guys. If you've tuned in before, you know that Abigail, Jenny's daughter, has a thing about chicken scissors, and and we've talked about it a few times. So there's more.
Okay. So we are a blended family. I don't know that I've talked about this on the show before, but Abigail spends half her time at our house and half her time with her dad. And she is coming back one day and telling me about a chicken restaurant that they went to. It is a fast food chicken restaurant. I will not say the name, and you will hear in a minute why. And she said, Mom, this chicken restaurant is so gross. Chef Ramsay needs to come clean it up.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
How do you answer that?
I was just like,
say?
I just looked at her and laughed first. Like, Chef Ramsay needs to come clean it up.
How does she even know about that show?
Oh my gosh.
I don't think he's done new episodes of that show in forever.
Yeah.
We used to watch that show all the time.
Yeah.
I love it. So again, shining a light on the joy that is parenting. My son is a little older than 5. And since he started kindergarten, he has said to us, Mom, Dad, I miss having quiet time during the day. Like, he wants to have quiet time where he gets to do his own thing. He reads books, he colors pictures, he does things by himself in his room for like an hour and a half to 2 hours every day that he's home with us.
Right.
And it's good for me, mostly. It's good for my mental health, but also he just likes having time where he's just kind of on his own and whatever. So since he's home on the weekends with us, of course, we continue quiet time because he loves it so much. And we've been setting him up in his room with his markers and lots of things to color so that he's constantly entertained. And my son loves art projects. Well, he's turned himself into an art project a couple of times. And not too long ago, he comes out of his room and he's completely covered in blue stripes, like marker blue stripes all over his arms, his legs, his hands. And I noticed like the limbs first, and then he kind of shows me his face and he turns his face towards me and he goes, Mom, and his eyebrows lift up. And I kid you not, my child has drawn whiskers, a triangle nose, and like triangles over his eyes and more stripes on his face. He looked like a blue tiger. And I said, okay, so what's our rule about coloring? And he was like, well, we color on the paper. And I said, okay, can you explain why you have stripes all over you? And he was like, well, I accidentally colored on myself. I accidentally got a dot on there. And I was like, well, that's not true. And just so we're all aware, when my son is lying and I know he's lying, I tell him that his ears are turning red so that he will cover his ears up when he's not telling the truth. And
my gosh.
Yeah, so his kind of one of his arms sort of goes up a little bit towards the ear. And I was like, so you're going to tell me like how this accident, actually happened? And he's like, well, and the hand goes up over the ear. And he's like, I was on the floor and it just happened. And I was like, okay, tell me about this just happening. And then his hand comes down and he goes, well, I wanted to be a blue tiger. So he owned it completely after after he knew that his hand was up by his ears. He's like, oh, I wanted to be a blue tiger. And he had totally turned himself into a blue tiger. And it was a light blue. It was not like a navy blue, but it was still everywhere. And I'm like, oh man, like how are we I'm gonna have to scrub his face, and it's washable marker and all that. But I was like,
Sam must know our family rule of we finish what we start.
I mean, look, there are worse things. I've heard stories. I have a dear friend who I text every so often who told me about her son, a set of markers, and what happens when your son has a set of markers when he's not clothed. So the drawing gets really creative. Thankfully, we did not go that route, but oh my goodness, it was hysterical.
How was washing it off?
We have been giving him his goggles in the tub, and he just likes to put his face underwater. And so most of it kind of rinsed off. And then I was like, okay, washcloth. And I made him scrub it off. And it seemed to come off for the most part. Again, it was a light blue, so it wasn't going to take a ton of scrubbing, but he definitely had some stripes on his arms for a little while.
I've got one for you.
Uh-oh.
I used to teach at a school where the mascot was a tiger.
Oh no.
And like we said earlier, dress up is my form of self-care. It was a Friday Spirit Day. Whatever. I used Crayola washable marker to draw a tiger face on my face.
No.
And normally I would do my face with makeup. And not necessarily Halloween makeup, but I will like draw with an eyeliner and then color it in with eyeshadow. I have lots of different colors of eyeshadow. But this time I was in a hurry and I just grabbed the markers and drew on the tiger face. It didn't wash off very well.
No, I would imagine that
it didn't. And that Friday after school, I had my first appointment with a therapist. And I had to explain to her, I am not here for this. I do not think I'm a tiger. I just couldn't wash it off.
I realize that this makes it look like I need therapy.
Yeah.
However, I just need you to know I'm extra and I
am not here to talk about being a tiger.
This is not a form of hallucination. This is legit. Like I was trying to be really good at my job. I was trying to show extra school spirit. That's incredible. Oh my gosh, what do you even say?
Oh, she was great. She laughed. She said, okay. Well,
how long did it take for it to come off?
Just fine.
I know.
Well, I couldn't get it off at school. And I had to go straight to
okay. So
probably I got home. I used makeup remover and I was able to get it off. But
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Just like, sorry. This is not the reason of my crazy. There's other stuff that we have to process today, but don't worry. I don't think I'm a tiger.
Oh my gosh. That's so you are the most adorable extra person I know. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. We have more.
So what are you doing on Friday nights when you're not dressing like a tiger? And going to therapy for it.
Going to therapy for it. I need to go to therapy again. So right now, with Sam coming, like we get Sam in after school care 3 days a week, so that my husband has more time to get some more work done. And when I was working, we needed to have that flexibility in our schedule. And the other 2 days a week, one of them's Tuesday, we go to swim. Yay, swim lessons. They're so fun. And I'm starting to realize like how much overscheduling starts to be a thing with kids, like holy smokes.
Right.
And then on Fridays, it's just our day to come home and chill. So we have instituted Marvel movie nights on Fridays at our house. My son is very into the Marvel universe, as he calls it, which I think is actually like
that's what
Marvel
it's called,
Cinema.
Right?
Yeah, Marvel Cinema. It's MCU, Marvel Cinema Universe, I think.
Cinematic.
Yes. Something.
It's the Marvel
my gosh, my friend Ariella
universe.
and my friends Ariella and Joy are gonna be so mad at me for not knowing. Anyway, I'm just getting into it, so forgive me if I'm totally wrong. But
are you still having Big Snack?
We still do Big Snack. I will share Big Snack with our listeners. I think I have already, but if not, I will do it. But so we do like right, a couple hours before like bath time stuff, we put on a Marvel movie, and we're going like in chronological order. I will say that I am getting kind of into these Marvel movies. Like they're pretty cool. Right. And like after I watch the movie, I will like go into Wikipedia and look at the plot and make sure I didn't miss something or whatever. But I'm getting into it, and my son is really enjoying it. And I mean, Bryce is kind of not like a fictional fantasy guy, like, but he'll watch it and he's being entertained by them. So like to me, it's kind of an all around win. And so on Friday nights, we'll sit down. Sam will get a Big Snack, which is basically just his dinner in a ice cube tray. You like put all these different, like, we put some blueberries and some chicken sticks.
It's a baby shark board.
It's a baby charcuterie board. And like some cheese and, one of the little ice cube holders has ketchup in it for his chicken sticks and pretzels, and like you just kind of mix it up and put a whole bunch of stuff in there, and he sits on the couch with his big snack and his juice, and he just watches Marvel movies with us. And then if he's still hungry, we'll pop some popcorn and then sit around together and watch the movies. And it's been really fun. And that's my current obsession, is like watching the Marvel movies and trying to understand what's going on. And I have to say, I get why people are super into it. I'm not quite super, but like, it's nice to see how all these things come together.
It's cool that you're doing them in order. That you're like seeing the story build.
I was a history teacher. Like, to me, this is the way that makes the most sense. And I just want to understand how they're all going to be able to come together in these Avengers movies. Because that to me, I'm like, if I were to watch the Avengers movies that came out before like a solo story, I wouldn't have any clue what's going on. So this works for me, and it's working for my family. And, you know, my son doesn't know any better, so it's fine. But I'm into it. I like it. Well, okay. So now comes the part of our pod where we sort of switch gears a little bit. So you've gotten some ridiculousness, and now we're going to give you a little bit of real talk about private schools. So the past 2 episodes have been all about public schools and charter schools. Jenny and I have both worked in a private school. That's actually how we met each other, as we were working in the same private school. I started subbing, and Jenny was like, you need to start working here. And that's what ended up happening. Here's our disclaimer about this. Neither Jenny nor I know every single thing about these 3 types of schools. We are coming at this from past experiences. And then I've gotten a lot of this information from greatschools.org and understood.org. I just want to make sure that you guys have as much information as possible so that you can start your own research, make your own decisions, and do what's best for you and your family, because this is in no judgment zone. All we want to do is present you with the information.
Right.
Yeah. So private schools, we want to get just into the real quick nitty-gritty basics of this. With a private school, funding will typically come from their own tuition dollars. Okay, so private schools charge tuition. They have grants that come their way. Oftentimes they'll have an endowment, and they will constantly be doing additional fundraising. So that might look like inviting grandparents into the building to say, look at all the great things we do, please support us. That might mean selling product throughout the community. That might mean
a gala.
Having dinners and big like charitable events that go directly towards funding the school. If the school is connected to some sort of religious organization, there's a good chance that the religious organization may also provide some funding for that school.
Correct.
It could also go the other way, that the school helps the religious organization do some fundraising as well. Some private schools are connected to a voucher system. The voucher system is when a school will get funding from a voucher that is paid for by the state. So that does happen on occasion, and typically that's to help subsidize tuition rates so that families who would not necessarily be able to afford a private school can use a voucher to help them afford that private school. These schools are autonomous, which means that they can teach religious curriculum if they want to, and they can teach curriculum that is not regulated by the state. So as an example of this, some private schools will look at the TEKS for a certain grade level in a certain content area and say, you know, that's really not what we want to teach at this grade level, so we're going to teach something completely different. At the private school that Jenny and I were teaching at, for example, we chose to, at least for my content area, we chose to teach to what the TEKS were for the content area. So I taught 7th grade history, which across the state in Texas is Texas history. So I could have gone to my head of school and said, I would rather teach, history of the ancient world for my content area. And there is a chance that head of school could have said, sure, no problem. You can teach that course if you want to for the entire year. But instead, I chose to teach what the TEKS were asking me. Okay. So I chose to teach the state regulated content area, but I didn't have to. No. Why is your thumb green? No, you didn't mess up. That's on purpose. Go wash your hands. Did you see it?
Mm-mm.
He looks like the Hulk. He colored his whole finger green. Sorry. Edit this out.
Or not.
You can edit out part of it. My son just came in. His entire thumb is colored green. So apparently we have not learned the lesson of the blue tiger, which is that we do not color our bodies.
Maybe he was working in the garden.
Oh, goodness. Back to private schools. Wow. Given that these private schools are autonomous and they don't have to teach the state regulated or mandated curriculum, they can go through what's called accreditation. Accreditation is a standardization process. It's a way to assess the school to ensure that it's delivering the content and material and rigor necessary to meet regional and or national standards that are set across the board by similar schools. So private school accreditation all have the same sort of criteria that they're supposed to meet. It's not something that is regulated by the state. It is a regional body that governs private schools only in the area.
Correct. It's oversight by an organization that's respected and run by educators, visits the campus, looks at the curriculum, looks at the quality of the faculty, and then gives the school yes or no. It's updated, whatever their period is. Sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's yearly. But you do not want to be part of a school community that's not accredited. At that point, you are homeschooling, which is okay.
Right.
If a school is not accredited, it means that they don't want oversight.
Right. Which is something that you should be absolutely wary of if they're choosing not to go through the accreditation process. Accreditation also, they don't just they'll look at pretty much everything that the school has. So it's like, how are they raising money in addition to what does the teaching look like? When our most recent school just went through accreditation, I had people in my classroom listening to me teach, listening to me talk to the kids, looking at my boards, making sure I had, goals and objectives written on there, making sure that I had submitted all my lesson plans, making sure that I had, an outline of what I was actually going to be teaching for the year. So it is a pretty rigorous process. Some schools do say that they don't want to go through that process, but if that is an option for a school in your area, I would not recommend you attending that school or your family joining that community. As for tuition, it can be expensive, but religious schools tend to be a little bit less expensive than many independent private schools. Many, if not most or all, private schools will have some sort of scholarship program where funds can come from their endowments or from fundraising to support students who may need financial aid if private school isn't an option that you'd like to pursue. So you would just need to, as you start doing your research into the local private school or the private school that you're interested in, make sure you ask questions or look for FAQ about financial aid, because those typically do exist for most private schools. With admissions for private schools, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Private schools, because they're not governed by the state necessarily, they are not required to accept every child. There is typically a pay to apply process that has extensive interviews where they'll interview the child and the family. They'll also do some testing to ensure that the child, meets the academic standards that the school has in place. They are allowed to be extremely selective in their student enrollment, and they can choose students based on any assets that they choose. This could be ethnicity, gender, religion, anything like that. What the private school says that they want from their families, they are allowed to pursue from their families. In addition to that, many private schools do not offer special accommodations or services for students who have an IEP or a 504 plan. Again, these are those plans that help to ensure that childs with learning disabilities, differences, or social and emotional needs have those services met for them. Private schools are not required to provide any of those services at all. So if your child does have a learning difference or has a 504 plan, you are going to need to heavily question that school if that's something that you want to pursue for your child. In addition, private schools are not required to evaluate students for special education services. If you want your child to be evaluated, you will have to go seek that out on your own.
There are two ways to do that. The first is to go through your local public school. We talked about this before when we were talking about public education. The law Child Find says that nationally, responsibility of identifying students with disabilities rests on the public school. And so I had told the story of my friend whose daughter was born with hearing difficulties and was already receiving therapy through their public school, even though she was not of school age. So you can go through the public system, even if your child is attending a private school. The other option is to pay for a private evaluation, which your health insurance may or may not cover all or part of. And normally that is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $2,000.
That's good to know. I didn't know it was that pricey. So it may be worth it to go through your public school to find out as much as you can. Once you find out what needs and accommodations and modifications your child will need from their education plans, a private school is not required to provide any of those. Again, because they're not bound by state law to uphold the standards of public education that are necessary, the private school is not required to meet any of those needs that are written out for your child if they have special accommodations. They are required by law to provide some learning accommodations that are written into the IEP, but it's not going to be what you would get in a public school. As we've talked about before in the public school setting, if there is an IEP, if there is a 504, every single learning accommodation in that IEP, in that 504, must be adhered to. There's no picking and choosing for which ones can be met. However, in a private school, they will go, okay, well, this student needs this, and that. And they might go, we can only provide that. So that's the one that we're going to provide. They don't have to adhere to every single one. It's going to be very limited. They're not required by law to provide a 504 plan. So learning accommodations, yes, but mental health accommodations or physical health accommodations, no. SPED teachers in a private school are also not required by law to be state certified. So it's just something to think about as you enter into a private school if your child has special learning needs that are going to need to be addressed. Let's talk more about those teachers. Teachers in private schools may or may not be required to have a certification. Most private schools like to employ as many certified teachers as possible. It helps with accreditation processes to have certified teachers. So they want that. Plus, most families want their child's teachers to be certified. That said, you may have a teacher who is not certified, but is an expert in their subject area. There is nothing wrong with having an uncertified teacher in a private school. If the school is accredited, then you probably really don't need to be too concerned about that teacher because more than likely he or she is a subject matter expert. Right. So that is something to think about. As for academic programs and class sizes, teachers in private schools will have smaller class sizes for the most part. They will often provide small classes with low student to teacher ratios, but there's no guarantee that any class size will be below a certain level. At the private school that I just recently left, I had classes that were as small as 7 kids, and they would go up to 18. So it really could be anywhere in there. Some classes, especially like elective classes, might even be bigger, 20, 22, somewhere in there. But for the most part, that is one of the draws of private schools is that people will say, oh, this is going to have smaller class sizes. It's going to be able to cater to my child's needs a little bit more. So something to think about there as well.
This would also be a reason why teachers choose to teach in a private school.
Yes.
We talked about the autonomy, that you're not necessarily have to adhere to the state standards for each class. A lot of private schools do alternative assessments. They don't have to take state standardized tests. For me, I love teaching in a private school because my class size is so much smaller. And surprise, there is less pay for teachers in private school than in public.
Yes.
My earning potential as a private school teacher is less. It often costs more money to educate a child in a private school than tuition covers, which is why schools do additional fundraising. And private school teachers, when you elect to leave the public system, you are taking a pay cut. But for me, it's worth it because I get to work with a smaller group of children and really get to know them well.
And to be clear, this pay cut is often significant. It could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year or more, depending on what district you're coming from and what school you go into. So pay for teachers in a private school is all over the map. It really just depends on how good the school is at fundraising in order to pay their teachers. So just putting that out there. Tuition dollars, especially if tuition across a region or city is pretty even, you're going to see a discrepancy in the way that teachers are compensated. But again, it's worth it to a lot of teachers because you are getting families who are choosing to put their children there and not being forced to put them there. They're often willing participants and eager to be a part of the community and eager to help. You're getting smaller class sizes where you can get to know your kids better. Your workload may be a little bit lower because you have smaller class sizes. So, the buy-in is going to be great at a private school for the most part. As for racial and religious diversity in a private school, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Scholarships and loan programs do help to make private schools more diverse. They're not going to be as diverse as public schools just by nature. For many parents, a faith-based education might be what you want for yourself and for your child. Since a public school can't teach religion in a non-secular context, they're not allowed to do that. Some parents are going to go, I really want that religious component in my child's life, so I'm going to put my child in a faith-based private school. In fact, the school that Jenny and I taught at was a Christian school that did have its own separate Bible course, and the kids attended a chapel service every week. That's pretty common. Many faith-based schools will require some sort of attendance at a chapel, a synagogue, a temple, or something like that. Kids of non-religious families will still attend private schools, but if there is a faith-based curriculum, those kids are going to be required to participate in that faith-based curriculum. So if you're a non-religious family and you choose to send your child to a faith-based school, your child will more than likely be attending those chapel services, those temple services, and learning about the religion on which the school is based.
Now, the school that I teach at right now, families do have the opportunity to opt out of chapel services.
That's interesting. That's not necessarily common across the board. It is something to think about.
Right.
That is why we are encouraging you to visit the school. If you are considering a faith-based school, please, please, please visit. Talk to other families, read the school website, see what kinds of things are required of your child, are required of your family, and do all the research that you can, because you're going to want to know what sort of faith-based education is going to be coming your way and what your child's going to be bringing home.
And be careful in the application process because they might require recommendations from local faith leaders. Mm-hmm. There are many schools that look for families to be regular attendees, members, congregants of local faith communities, and might actually check up on your participation level in your local community.
That's very true. And a lot of them will require a statement of faith from you as you fill out the application. This is something that just says, yes, I believe in this, that, or the other, whatever that may be. In fact, some of these schools require that statement of faith of their teachers when they apply for a job. So you can't even apply for a job within the school without seeing some sort of statement of faith come your way. I know at the school that Jenny and I were at, that statement of faith was actually attached to our contract every year. So we were supposed to, when we re-upped on our contract, we also had to reaffirm our statement of faith. So that was just something to think about. If that was a thing that you are concerned about, if you're a non-religious family or if you are a religious family, either way, that information might be helpful for you. Jenny's favorite thing to talk about with schools is the extracurriculars and other activities that come with every school, because every kid needs to find his or her place within the building. From what I know, private schools offer more opportunities for extracurriculars than a charter school might.
Right.
But it is still not going to be as much as a public school. So private schools are going to fall right there in the middle. They'll often have some of the basics, like theater clubs and choirs and sports are going to be big at most private schools. So that's something to consider. Many private schools are going to be no cut when they're lower in the lower grades, but they could be cut as you get higher. So it's possible that you have your son or daughter try out for their basketball team and they may or may not make the cut. But that's something that you could look into when you start applying for those schools. Jenny, give me more information about this because I know you are the queen of the extracurriculars.
You're right. I love what we called at A&M the other education, and I hope that one day I can make a career out of just running that side of a school.
That'd be so cool.
So, obviously that's one of the great benefits of a public school. Depending on your private school community, it might just be ask and they'll fill the need. Mm-hmm. In my experience, students have said, hey, I want to start a blank club. Will you be our faculty sponsor? Sure. Yeah. I'll sit around at lunch and watch you guys trade Pokemon cards or whatever it is.
Yeah.
A lot of times, because the private school community is so student focused, faculty sponsors are easy to find and you can get some clubs off the ground. When it comes to sports, academic competitions, fine art competitions, most states do have leagues for private schools to compete against each other. I know in Texas, the private school league is just as competitive as the public school league. It's not to the same level of athletics, but it is still very, very competitive.
Absolutely.
If you want to play a sport and you're not planning on making a career out of it, you can still very much do that in a private school setting. Mm-hmm. This is, again, we say this every episode, choosing a school that's right for your family does take some hard work, and it is a very personal decision. The right school for child A in your family might not be the right school for child B in your family. Mm-hmm. So you really do need to visit the school and look at their offerings and see what kind of extracurricular community activities they have.
Opportunities there are. Yeah, absolutely. Again, just choose the school based on what your family needs. Don't ever feel like we are advocating for one over the other. In a sense, we did do a little bit of that, right? If you have a child with a learning difference, you're going to want to explore your options and be very thorough in your research, because definitely there is a choice that I would make for my own child over others in the group of 3 schools we've talked about, right? If your child doesn't have these learning differences, really it kind of is an open playing field for whatever you want for your kids. So it's all about just doing as much research as possible. And my hope, and Jenny's hope as well, is that with these 3 episodes, you've been able to kind of get a quick summary, just a little bit, so you can kind of guide your focus. So if you know that, charters sound like the way to go for your family, you can sort of head, in that direction as you do your research, and you don't have to spend all of your time focusing on all these different types of schools in your area. No matter what, our plea to you is that you support your teachers as you choose your school, as you decide to, enroll and engage with your community. Your teacher is probably your number one source of communication for what's going on with your child. So please just support them and just know that we're doing the best we can. And any teacher who's in a school is there because they want to help your kid learn and love to learn and be a part of a community of people who loves them. So that's really what our job is.
I do not do this job because I love biology. There's a lot of jobs out there for biologists.
Right.
I do this job because I love children, particularly middle schoolers.
Someone has to love middle school kids.
Oh man.
Middle school kids are amazing. You middle school moms.
Yeah.
Y'all are heroes. We love you.
My friend runs a business where she works with families who have middle schoolers, and the name of her business is Everybody Hates Middle School.
I mean, you go out into the community and people will say like, oh, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a teacher. And they're like, oh, what do you teach? And you're like, 7th grade history. And they're like, oh. Like, you guys do God's work. And you're like, no. I think personally the people who teach the itty bitties are the ones who are really doing, the hard work of the people. But I mean, I love middle schoolers. We love your kid. I promise we love your kid. We really do. So just support us as best you can, especially teaching in COVID, because this is a straight up mess for all of us. So
supporting your teacher could look like just responding thanks when you get an email.
Just the one word. We know you got it.
Right.
Great. Perfect.
Could be checking grades with your child periodically throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
It could be helping your child with their planner, saying, hey, I know that you have the same homework due every Thursday. Let's make sure that on Wednesday night, you can show it to me.
Right. If you have a little one, for me, it looks like when my son's take home folder comes home every day, I open it every day and I see what's in there. And if there's nothing in there, great. Or it could be arranging the snack for your child exactly the way that your teacher wants it arranged, because there's a good chance she has a reason for it. So anything that they're asking you to do, they're not asking you to do it because they're being nitpicky or whatever. Just they have a purpose behind what they're doing. Check the grades, check the take home folders, and put the snack in the baggie the way that they want. Okay, with that said, this is the end of our public, charter, and private school series. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you feel like you can make an informed decision for your family and for yourself. If you like us and you enjoyed this show, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, because we need support. So please do that. And use your gift cards. Goodbye.
Hey friends, thanks for listening to the CK and GK podcast. Find us at CK and GK podcast on Instagram and Twitter, and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or anywhere else that you pod. See you next time.